Wagwan people, this is your girl Lexi, and you are tuning in to Reggae Influence. This will be the first of its kind. It's a TV show where we'll be talking about the origin of reggae music. This show is for reggae enthusiasts, reggae lovers around the world internationally that really care about where reggae music is going, the influence that it has made, and how it can be preserved throughout the world. So, on top of that, we're going to talk about pop culture in reggae music. We're going to talk about the influence that reggae has had, and we're going to just start from the beginning. This show was created because, as we see over time, the origin of reggae has been very much dampered. It's been dampered down to a level where, what is it, right? We're going to go over topics like, should Vybez Kartel and Shenseea be qualified or registered as reggae artists and being nominated for Grammy Awards in the reggae category? And another topic, Buju, speaking of what's going on in reggae music. Is it colorism? Is it that he's not getting any play over the world? It's not getting the respect that it used to get. Is that the case? And then lastly, we're just going to talk about how and what we can do about this, how we can really make reggae influence in the positive light that it was designed for. And we're going to end with a wonderful interview with Kenny Vanella, reggae artist himself, hailing from the beautiful Wilmington, Delaware. And we did an interview with him right here in the studio. We're going to end with that. So it's a nice little reggae show. Let's get started. So let's talk about reggae music. Like, what was it started for to start with, right? It used to be the music of the people. It used to be the music that was for oppressors, people that were oppressed, people that were in poverty, people who didn't have a voice, and they were singing this voice. It started off as an African people movement, but then it just got bigger into the world music, music of the world internationally. Everyone began to relate with reggae music, with its origins of freedom of your mental thinking, freedom of the people, African liberation and your community, uniting Black people, but now people of the world with one love, not just Black. And it was a positive message. It was a message of our struggle and how the current system, Babylon as they would refer to it, is happening as before our eyes. And if we as a people don't come together and don't love one another and understand that we're not against each other, but we want to empower each other, then we're screwed, right? And I think at this point we're screwed because that message has somehow gone into dancehall. We've changed it so much, and I don't know who's judging reggae anymore, but so far the rules have just kind of been died down. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to really be talking about and dissecting what's going on in reggae music and what we, as enthusiasts that really love the music, can do to make a difference for it. So, we talked about the origin, we talked about the oppression, we talked about the positive message. So, let's bring it to today. Where are we? We still have great reggae musicians. I'm definitely not here to break down our beautiful reggae artists that are out there. The message is one love, and I always want to give that love back to our community. And reggae now has gone far beyond Jamaica, even though that is the roots. I'm obviously in my Jamaican sash and always repping for my country, but we know that it has gone way beyond Jamaica. So we want to acknowledge that and we want to be thankful for that, that the world loves reggae and it's not just the Jamaican music, but it's music for the people. But let's talk a little bit about the first topic we're going to discuss is Vybez and Shenseea being categorized as reggae artists. So let me talk a little bit about the covered article. So Shenseea in Vybez is according to the Jamaican Observer. It reads here, Shenseea, Vybez Kartel, one love among reggae Grammy nominations. So that's according to the Jamaica Observer, which is nice. And again, not here to hate, but have we really listened to Vybez and Shenseea? Is this really reggae music, right? And again, beautiful dancehall artists. We should have a dancehall category, the best of their kind, right? I love Shenseea personally. I think lyrically, she is the best in the game female lyricist out there. Her freestyles unmatched. Her beauty, it's there. Love Shenseea. Listen to her all the time. But the messaging does not go with what we talked about reggae. Again, influencing the people in a positive light, freeing ourselves from mental slavery, positive unification of what's going on in this system, impoverished communities, and giving voice to the voiceless. Let's just look at some of Shensea's songs. Would we consider Hit and Run? And everyone knows the song. If you're in the reggae field, as a reggae song. Look, let's just say that we're going to change the beat, change the rules, which we're doing, and say, let's give it reggae. The content is just not reggae. We have to change the content. If we want Vybez to be reggae artists, we have to change the content. Even somewhere in the album, some kind of music that is a positive upliftment, it's not there. So we're going to start with Hit and Run, like I said. Now, love Shenseea, like I said, but she is my guilty pleasure. When I say guilty pleasure, it's like when you eat a food that you know you're not supposed to be eating, but you still do it because it's a guilty pleasure, right? Like that's Shenseea. Something I'm listening to when I'm by myself, when I'm vibing. Would I listen to her around my children? No. Well, my child, I have a daughter. Or no. Would I listen to her around at work? Like, would I refer her to a coworker, to my boss? Absolutely not. Why? Because it's derogatory, right? It talks about a lot of sex. And again, for reggae, we have a better message than that. We have enough sex music. We have enough of that kind of music out there. Not trashing it. There's a time and place that you want to grind and bump and grind and all that. But to put it in a reggae category, and the song is literally called Hit and Run. So I'm going to let you use your imagination for what she's talking about. Now, again, it's my guilty pleasure. Do I listen to it? Yes. But could it have been in a more reggae genre for it to be classified as reggae in terms of the lyrics being chosen for it? Let's break it down. I'll try to go from the Caribbean, Jamaican Lexi. Of course, I'm first generation American, but I still speak patois, and I don't care if I have an accent. When I speak it, I speak it. So you think you could have get in on my feelings? You couldn't get me physical down. So what that means for my English speakers is she's asking the man, did you really think you could get in my feelings? Do you think you could get me to settle down? I gave you a hit and run. I gave you a hit and run. Me did only one little deal. I just wanted a little bit of dealings. Love, you were looking for love, but you must be dumb. I gave you a hit and run. I gave you a hit and run. So this is on the album, right? This is the artist that we're qualifying as reggae, which I love Shenseea again. Not to bash her, but this is a reggae podcast. So we are going to talk about what the music is, preserving the music, and making sure as us as Jamaicans and as reggae enthusiasts that we support the genre in the light that it was designed for, right? And again, we're talking about settling down. The man that wants to settle down, you're asking if he's dumb, and we're going to give him a hit and run. So I'm guessing the young girls might be listening to this. I'm in my early 30s, so maybe I'm out of this. But where are these men that want to settle down after you gave them a hit and they want to love you and settle down with you and be with you, but you would rather hit and run? So my question is, where are we running to, right? Are we running to another man? Are we running to singlehood? Are we running to being on our own? Are we running like the whole song? I don't think that's the concept of what we really want to do. Women today, I think, want to hit and stay. That's the message I get from my friends, my girls, well, most of my friends are wives, of course. But when we listen to these songs, while they're good to bop with, they're not really what reggae was about. Now, I know that they're going to say it's sexist, right? Because who hits and run more than Jamaican men, right? That's going to be the back. I know I'm going to get some heat on that, right? Like Jamaican men are known to hit and run, right? But and not saying women should be held to a different standard, right? Because that's another question. But I don't think the abundance of the women having that option are the same as men. And that again is just sexist within itself in society. We look in Jamaica, we look in the US, there aren't that many women to male ratios for us to be hitting and running. So for this to be the female anthem that she's kind of like driving in this hot car in the music video and leaving the man and going I don't know where, it just kind of gives a false illusion. And again, reggae queens, right, our Marcia Griffiths and our Rita Marleys and our original reggae artists. Right now, I love my Lila Ake. I might be saying her name wrong, but these are really not the messages I think they're giving, the original reggae artists. And I just don't know if this is what we want. But again, we're not going to just beat up Shenseea because I've heard her on many of interviews talking about how Jamaicans in particular have kind of just given her so much critique and not supported her the way that, America has. And I do feel bad. I don't ever want to feel like we're beating her down because it's because of love that you give that good critique. We just want our best in reggae to be shown. And Shenseea, we love you. It's not anything bad. So I am going to get over to Vybez so that I'm not just giving you the penalization. So we've all seen Vybez rehearsal videos on Instagram, have we not? Pretty scary, right? Vybez is amazing, right? Vybez is lyrically and sound wise, like I love his song Interracial. And it's just so good. Like he's got other, Fever. Like, come on, it's Vybez. He just got fresh out of prison. He doesn't need any of the critique from Lexi, but I gotta give it to him because he's being nominated in this category that we're trying to preserve. And we're reggae influence, right? So is he influencing in the reggae field? I would have to say a hard no. I would have to say a hard no for Shenseea, and I have to say a hard no for Vybez, right? Not only the messaging of his lyrics, but, you know, what he is giving the public based on those rehearsal videos. We don't know if this is, the Bobs and the Gregory Isaacs and the old school, even Buju, the performances that we're used to, the fire. When people go to a reggae show, even the Marleys, I just went there and it's going, and the guitar and the instruments we play, the Rasta drum, all of these things. That's what makes reggae music beautiful. Vybez is like skipping in the video. Like, he's got a mic. And again, not hating on Vybez. I love you, Vybez. Really, you are, what makes us proud as Jamaicans in the music industry because we listen to you, the world listens to you. I love you. But for reggae, we just want to preserve it. And we know you and Shenseea have the lyrics, have the talent, have everything you need to really make a conscious album, make conscious music. And that is what we, the people, are asking of you. So, those are the topics for the Grammy controversy, right? So we want to ask who's judging the Grammys. I can guarantee these are not Jamaicans on the Grammy board that nominated this because again we have Lila Ake who's like out there now. We have like big reggae artists internationally that's crushing it, right? And again, like Buju, which we're gonna get into his topic the next on colorism. What happened to these artists? What happened to the reggae artists that really are writing music for the people? They're just gone, right? They're faded away. They're not getting the praise. It's at a point where we're pulling dancehall artists in a category that does have good music, but we're just overlooking them. Maybe they're not getting the marketing they need. Maybe they're not reaching the audience, right? But I know I'm listening to great, underground reggae music, and I hate to call it underground, but it is. So we have to ask ourselves what really happened, why we're pulling Vybez and Shenseea into a category. So that's going to put us into our next topic of Buju Banton, household name. Love you, Buju. Again, building all of our wonderful reggae artists up. But we're going to talk about what he's saying here. We're going to read the headline. Buju Banton blames colorism for underappreciation of his record-breaking tour. Maybe if I were a lighter hue. So where are we going with this, Buju? Like, I read it. Most of it I agree with. Like, look at these questions here. Why am I not seeing reggae music in these prestigious venues? Right? Why am I not seeing reggae music on these arenas? Is it the lack of our presentation? Is it the lack of our delivery? Is it the lack of our representation? I love this, right? Because you're asking questions, and we're never going to be able to get to the problem of what's going on unless we ask those critical questions. So, Buju, I love that you ask those questions. I also listened to you on Drink Champs, that interview. The questions you're asking, we've all been asking, but you just articulate them so well, and you challenge us to think again because we've just stopped thinking. And you really brought it into perspective of like what are what are we doing here, right? But is it colorism? I don't know if it's colorism as much as it is. You've been in jail for 7 years prior. You get out and then you just come back to the United States, right? So there's been a long gap of stars in reggae music. Is it just your fault, Buju? No. But we haven't had a good reggae artist since Sean Paul, probably at least 20 years. I think now we're getting YG Marley, who's just went gold or platinum or one of those things. So we're proud of that song, Praise John the Moonlight, one of my favorites for this year. But the real question is, Buju, what is going on, right? That's a good question. But I don't think it's color, right? That's to me a very superficial, very not open ended way to look at the situation. What other things could it be? Well, I started to brainstorm myself. I asked myself, what's really going on here? Why did he have to cancel some show date tours? Why does he feel that we're not being represented? Why does he feel that he's not able to find like a synergy of reggae artists out there? We're all seeing that. But it could be secession, right? We talk about this a lot and it's not practiced enough, right? Buju as a Rasta, Jamaicans and other wonderful reggae artists around the world In order for people to continue to have it, you have to have a following of people that you keep around you. Who's the next Buju? Buju, you should be having someone that you're recommending to us, right? Of all the interviews we've heard from you, of all the music that we're listening to you, we don't know who Buju listens to. We don't know who's shadowing Buju, right? Same for all of our reggae artists today. Vybez, right? Who's gonna be the new Vybez? Who's gonna be the new Shenseea, right? I think we're so focused on our careers, which is important to be focused on yourself. But in other industries, you usually see where there's somebody new coming in. There's a young country artist that's upcoming, right? We have young up and coming hip hop artists. We have young up and coming, pop artists. But in reggae, we don't know who's up and coming, right? It's just like the old ones we've been used to for 30 years, and then nobody's succession. Like there's nobody else. So we have to learn how to pass on the baton. Please pass the baton. I don't know if that's a Caribbean thing, a reggae thing, why we don't pass the baton, but please do. Like we need to know who's being groomed, who's teaching what our real message is, who's going to be the new reggae artist, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is there's a disconnect with reggae artists and everyday people. Like, let's talk about this, right? And I'm sure we'll probably say this with hip hop artists and all other artists, but we're talking about reggae here because it's reggae influence, right? Like, how many reggae artists do we feel really connect with the everyday working man, right? We know back in the days, reggae music, the music that we identified with, was because it really talked about the issues we were facing, right? I was listening to old Marcus Garvey. I was listening to Burning Spear. I was listening to We Don't Have Any Food to Eat. We Don't Have Any Money to Spend. Whoa, what are we gonna do, right? We listen to the other songs, right? Jah give us life, so we are gonna live, right? And we talk about things like, Rastaman. They haven't, there's injustice among the land, but Rastaman hasn't made a plan, right? These are critical things that we're just jingling to, right? Even Barris with putting up resistance, right? We're dancing to them, we're listening to them, but they're really key things that we should be doing, that we should be thinking about, that's challenging us, right? There's a disconnect today. There's a disconnect today. We can just see that from the ticket sales. Who on earth has $1,500 to see Buju or Vybez $500, right? This music is for the common man. And what music are you telling us, right? More than ever, our country is suffering. When I say our country, I mean Jamaica. But there's also the U.S., right? There's also our, reading literacy rates. There's our money and just income rates, right? There's what's going on with our investors buying out the Caribbean, buying out Africa, buying out the countries that once meant a lot to the reggae scene. We're not talking about that anymore. It's like, back then it was bad. Now it's worse. And I haven't heard one song about it, right? We credit ourselves in reggae music to kind of call out what's happening. But, we haven't one song about what's going on in our schools. We don't have one song about what's going on with our boys. We don't have one song about what's going on in our country. We don't have one song about how poverty is just getting higher and higher. We don't have one song, right? So this goes back to changing the content, right? There's a disconnect. That can only be that because, or somebody else is writing your music, but I just don't understand how I love you, Buju. But when you come out and say, I got to the US and people just want to dance. They just want a dance hall track. Right? That's what you said. And I'm like, no, we don't. We don't need another dancehall track. Like, I think that's the problem, right? We need light to the dark, like what's not being talked about. And this used to be the music. This used to be the outlet. I put the responsibility on reggae music because that was the music that was talking about these issues. Marcus Garvey speaking of what was going on in our communities, uniting us, right? Getting us at the best that we could be. And here we are, 20 years later, changing the categories, right? That's where we're going to get to, right? Like, look at classical music, right? That music comes from Europe. Started in the 1700s, believe it or not. And the first classical track sounds a lot like current classical music. It hasn't changed in 300 years. Like, over 300 years, just think about that. You go to a symphony lately, which I've gone, and sounds just like it did in the 1700s. They didn't add a beat. They didn't add bass. They didn't add lyrics to it. Oh, let's rap on it. Let's try to change classical in a genre and take this genre and make it classical. No. You go to a classical symphony, you go to an opera, and it sounds just like how it sounded back in the day, like generations ago. But for whatever reason, reggae music, a lot of other musics too, but we're going to talk about reggae, we haven't even been around 60 years. I believe we're celebrating 57 years of reggae. We're not even at 60 years, and somehow dancehall is in the category. The sound is different, the content is different, the music is different. So the question is, who convinced you, right? That, oh yeah, let's change it up. Let's just change the message. Let's just do music. Let's do a dance song now. We are so innovative, but we haven't even gotten to 60 years and we're changing something that needs to be preserved. We haven't even been out of captivity, out of all of the issues that our people and many peoples around the world, we've got an international, right? This is an international music. There's sufferation in all kinds of countries, and we're still not out, but we think it's time to change and make it more dance like or dance hall. I don't think so. I think we need to stick with what classical music did, and what you heard in the 1790s is what you're going to hear today, right? And that's what we want. We don't want all this variation and hit and run away from this man and things we weren't talking about before. That's a luxury, Shenseea, right? We need to talk about the key things. Now, I'm not saying I don't listen to it, because I do, but we need some balance of conscious versus non-conscious, and I don't think we're in a position to start, changing these things up. So let's talk about some other things, right? Let's talk about this colorism talk, right? That's what I brought up. So I think the issue first is secession. I think the second issue is, again, there's a disconnect between two groups, right? And then we're also going to talk about the audience. The audience now kind of has left reggae music, right? And I guess now it's hip hop, it's Afro beats. The audience has left, but they can only leave because the artist left them first, right? Maybe these dance songs, maybe this music that we think the people want is really not what they want, right? And the listeners are telling us that, right? So maybe it's time for us to connect back with the audience, go back to the original form, not worry about what's trending, not worry about what it is, and get back into the lab and write about what's actually happening and going on, because there's enough topics that we can do there. So, how do you think we can regain relevance, right, based on what we're seeing? Well, we got to start connecting back to our roots. And that goes for anyone that loves reggae music. Anyone. You always have the roots of who you are. That's why I come in my sash, right? I come traditional of where we come from. Because if you're not involved with your roots, that doesn't matter where you come from, you're never going to be able to develop a craft that's going to be worth anyone wanting to listen to twice, right? And that's why you're getting a lot of these one hit wonders, one stream, but you want to really hear the music that's changing. And that's what we're asking for, reggae listeners, right? Another thing that we can do to get back on the right track, reggae enthusiasts, reggae listeners, reggae influencers, is we can really start looking at Africa, looking at what's going on there, right? For too long, we've talked about it, and now we're seeing Jamaica in the Caribbean is pretty much gone, right? Investment wise, and Africa's next. And not saying this is not us trying to tear down investors or things going on in the world, but we do have to be conscious of a strong America, a strong reggae America, a strong Black America, a strong, America is that we have a strong continent. We have a strong Caribbean, right? I wouldn't say our continent is strong, right? I wouldn't say the Caribbean is strong. That's probably something we should be thinking about. Like, hey, back when reggae was prominent, we were still not having the issues we're having now with even beach access for locals. Are locals able to go to the beach? Yes, this is happening today. This is happening. Read the news, read the articles, right? Like, a lot of locals are not able to visit some beaches because investors have bought up the hotels. And, the old Jamaica where you could just go and bathe in the river and walk around, and whether it was local or hotel, right? Look at our gun violence, right? These are things where we do want to observe what's going on in the continent. We do want to observe what's going on the island, right? the different islands in the Caribbean, because we're one. I do believe everyone enjoys it, not just for Jamaican people, but people that want to vacation there. Maybe they want to, at one point, see the culture that once originated there. But we may not still be there if everything is sold off and nothing is preserved and we don't go back to our roots. So that's my message for you today. Is like, go back to your roots. Go back to who you are. Think about the Grammy controversy that we talked about. And this is, again, not to break down any of my wonderful dancehall artists. I'm not going to call them reggae artists because we know they're not. But think about, is this what we want, right, in reggae music? We want you in dancehall. We want you guys to stay as talented as you are. But we also want the reggae people who are really putting forth their effort day in and day out, that really take this seriously, right? Um, and then we're going to think about also what we talked about with Buju. Buju, you told us only Rasta can liberate the people over hills and valleys too. But we're waiting on Rasta to liberate the people. Where are you? Right? We're waiting. I'm not, I'm just covering the news, right? I'm not an artist. I wish I was a reggae artist. I think I'd have some good lyrics. I think I could drop a beat. I think I could do a little bit more of what we need, but I'm not, right? I'm just covering what the facts are. I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to, oh, okay, I'm here to insert my opinion a bit, but I'm here to just challenge our audience. You are the ones in the music saying you're here to liberate the people. You are the ones who set forth this message. And we as the listeners, we want to go back to that. We want to hear Hills and Valleys. We want to hear Destiny. We want to hear the tracks like Marcus Garvey. We want to hear the tracks like Jah Give Us Life, right? We want to hear the tracks like Tight Ship. That's a more recent one. But these are the ones that make us really think. Let's get back to that. We know we have it in us because we've done it before. And we're not going to just talk about things that we need to work on. We're also going to talk about things that we do good on this show. And like I said, what I'm doing good is the fact that I'm even able to address this is because we are doing good, right? Because it's out there, it's being covered. I love that we're talking about it. We're asking these questions. But now it's time to take the step and take action. Let's start to uplift the ones who are doing the music. And that's why I do love Praise Jah in the Moonlight. Because YG is young. He's a first generation American like me. And to think about him in his, probably 20s, talking about praising Jah in the Moonlight. And just the lyrics, has anybody listened to the lyrics of the song? Deep, really strong. And that's why it did so well. And I hope that this is the beginning of us understanding that this is what the people want. So again, I brought us Kenny Vanella. You guys are going to be in for a surprise with the interview coming up with Kenny Vanella. He is amazing. He talks about, what he feels about reggae music. And I asked him some controversial questions, but he gave me nothing but the best. And he's on his journey, his Rasta journey. And I will always respect and love the Rasta man because they really originate from Africa, but in Jamaica, we kind of pioneered in a different way. And I just love the messaging. And so I want you guys to really tune in. I want you guys to listen home to your most favorite reggae song, deep one too, not hit and run. Nothing's wrong with hit and run, but that's for the club. Really listen to that song, that reggae song that speaks to your soul, that speaks to your inmost parts, right? We don't want to be like on Cool Runnings when they're like, what are you doing here, Jamaica? What's going on, Jamaica? Right? That's where we are. We're in the Cool Running scene of what are we doing here, Jamaica? And we don't want that question, right? We want to know that what we're leaving the world, not 60 years in already, changing our category. But we want to know that we're leaving the world with better influence. So you've tuned into another great episode, our first debut episode. I'm your girl Lexi. I am happy that you guys tuned in today. Tune into our interview on reggae influence. Take care. God bless. One love. Wagwan people, we are at Reggae Influence, the show that vibes to the pulse of reggae, dives into rich culture, and celebrates the impact of reggae on the world today. Today, I couldn't be more excited to welcome my first debut episode by Mr. Kenny Vanella, a visionary artist, producer, and songwriter who is rooted in the heartbeat of reggae. Welcome to the show, Kenny.
Thank you, Lexi. Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure and honor to be here with you. So thank you.
Of course, of course. So I know you were in Jamaica recently.
Yes.
Peter Tosh tribute
Yes.
concert.
Yes.
Tell me a little more about that.
Well, I have to go back. So, maybe 10, 12 years ago, I was listening to Peter Tosh as usual. And song Lessons in My Life came on, and I'm listening to it, and these lyrics about, I'm a thoughtful man and I love thoughtful people. I'm a honest man and I love honest people. So I was like, I'm a compassionate man and I love compassionate people. So I write this song, Compassionate People. Fast forward to 2019, I go to Jamaica to record a song with Squidly Cole, and I'm like, all right, it's October. I'm gonna time it for Peter's birthday. Okay. So I'm like looking on the map for places around. It's like, okay, Peter's got a museum. There's a hotel at the museum. So long story short, the stage for the celebration is in the front door of the hotel I'm staying at. So I'm like, okay. And I became friends with the security guard. Andrew comes for a sound check. He introduces me to Andrew Tosh. So now I kind of have a little connection there.
So that's Peter Tosh's son.
Peter Tosh's son.
Wow.
And then, a few years later, I have this idea. Once I record the album and I record Compassionate People, if I could have Andrew represent his father on this song, it would be like the greatest thing ever.
Of course.
And I reached out to him. The only contact I had was Instagram, and his manager, Oya, got back to me. And, over the course of like probably about a year, we were able to work it out, and Andrew's on the song. So, yeah. So, and then fast forward to, a couple weeks ago, we were going to shoot a video for the song. So they invited me to come down and we shot a video, and I got to perform with him at Peter's 80th birthday.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, so in the course of like 10 or 12 years, this thing of like just was able to happen with Compassionate People and the whole thing. So
right.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm still kind of thinking about it.
That's
so,
like crazy. Like you dropped some big names already, like just in that story. Like for those that don't know, for the listeners that don't know, Squidly Cole is the drummer for
Steven. He was the drummer for the Melody Makers. First nephew of Tabby Diamond from the Mighty Diamonds. And then his father is Stranger Cole, who everyone really that knows reggae, his song "The Bangarang" is credited as being the first reggae song. So his lineage, I mean, he drummed for Jimmy Cliff on tour as like a 15, 16-year-old kid. So he's been, so I was able to befriend him too, and we've developed this tremendous relationship.
Going back to, again, the story, you were in Jamaica, got friends with that's how it works, just got friends with the
you have to show up.
And show up and you're there, and then before you know it, you're family with these people. How was your first trip to Jamaica? Like, what was that experience like?
That actually is an interesting, how that developed was interesting. Not to go into too many details, I was dating this girl in New York.
Started with a girl.
If she sees this, it's fine. It's fine. Like we've talked about this.
Okay.
And she's a big traveler, so I hadn't really been anywhere. She's like, all right, well, number one, you need to get your passport. And I was kind of already on this. Like Rasta was really getting into me. I was writing a ton of reggae. She said, I've never been to Jamaica. The first trip we're going to take together is Jamaica. Right. We're going to go to Kingston. We're going to rent a car. Blah, 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 blah. Well, we break up.
Oh, that's not the way.
But I still have a ticket to Jamaica.
Oh.
So I was actually an EMT. I was an EMT at the time in New York City. And, very stressful job, driving an ambulance, dealing with very, very sick people. And I was like, okay, well, I got this ticket to Jamaica. This thing is this fire has been lit in me.
Right.
I'm going to work. I'm going to quit my job, and I'm going to go down to Jamaica for however long I want to go. So it was kind of like, and it kind of sounds like cliche and stuff, but like I viewed it as like a mission,
Right.
like I
Yeah.
was going to go down
Yeah.
and like just almost like a pilgrimage
Right.
to this spiritual
Place.
place. So yeah, so I went and I volunteered at Alpha Boys School. It's now called Alpha Institute. So I stayed there, mentored the kids
Mm-hmm.
with Sparrow Martin.
Okay.
Help. Just kind of was just being of service.
Right.
Just went down there, and then I made sure I got the tough gong and like record a little bit, and
Okay.
catch a
So
vibe.
how does that work? You just can record, like you could just book a time with Tough Gong, or you got to know people, or
No, I mean it's a fully run studio. Anybody that can go and book the studio time. So
nice.
it was really
Is it in Kingston? Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Was the school in Kingston? You said Alpha.
Alpha Boys.
Alpha Boys.
Yeah,
Where's that school?
that's in Kingston.
Kingston.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So like I know a lot of people hear Kingston and they're just like scared, but I know we've been people that have been.
Yeah.
know.
I mean it's a shame that that's the
Right.
case, but like they say that, I'm from Wilmington.
Mhm.
Wilmington,
Wilmington born. Yeah.
people say that about Wilmington.
Right.
People say that about Philadelphia.
Right.
I mean, anywhere you go,
Mhm.
there's places you're not going to go.
Right.
There's, it's just so, I love Kingston.
Right.
It feels kind of like a second home, really.
Of course.
Yeah.
So you talked about that burning inspiration of reggae. So the show is called Reggae Influence, right? Because there is that influence around the world, and I wanted to talk a little bit about a little bit of controversy in reggae with like Buju. He was bringing up like Afro beats, and then like maybe the reggaeton that kind of came in to reggae producers. I know you produce, and kind of felt like there's a lawsuit going on about the beats. Do you feel that reggae music has kind of been infiltrated by other cultures, stolen? What do you think? Or you think it's more of an inspiration? What position do you take with that controversial topic?
I mean, I can't. It's as I'm progressing through this journey, it's like I can't really consider myself authority on this. There's like I honor the roots and the pioneers that birthed the music. So nuances like that I can't really speak to per se. But you use the word inspire. I know. I think it's about intention.
Okay.
And if your intention is to utilize that and you also give credence to and honor and reverence to what you're utilizing in your own art, then I think it's creativity.
Right.
It's hard. I mean, I know, especially with like, American people or, let's just say white people, adopting, I can't even say adopting, influence, reggae influence. No, I mean, that's,
Right,
like
right.
it's at the end of the day, there's a spirit
Yeah.
and a human expression.
Yeah.
And we always take from, not again, take is the wrong word.
No, I don't.
Influ-
I understand, and I agree.
influence, yeah.
I actually agree with you. Like you said, I do think your intention, right? Like reggae is for everyone. It's
Yes.
for the world.
It's the people's
It's
music.
the people's music,
I mean,
exactly.
hands down.
Hands down. And if you feel that spiritual connection, like you said, a lot of people, you just feel enraptured, like you said, listening to the lyrics. If it touches your heart, then it's become your music as well. But do you think that I know again back on that subject a bit is that they feel reggae music's kind of been like lowered or kind of forgotten about underground, doesn't get as much homage as it needs. That's another topic. Do you think that it's underground, it's not as mainstream, it doesn't get the respect it deserves?
You know what? I can speak on this. Number one, it does not get the respect it deserves.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, it's a business, and what makes money is what the folks that have the power to promote, to present. Where there's money, that's where they're going to put their focus on. So, I part of my mission is to bring. I mean, I'm a disciple of Bob,
Yes.
hands down. I mean, that's just what it is.
Wow.
So he said, "I'm not for the black man's side or the white man's side. I'm for God's side."
Amen.
He said, the interviewer asked him, if, you know, do I need to be black to be Rasta? And he
Right.
said, do you have a choice?
Right,
He's like,
exactly.
if you have a choice, you should come black. But if not, come as God made you.
Right.
So there's a level of spirituality that I feel reggae, you know, as Bob got it out there, and I'm not comparing myself at all, but I just, reggae is the people's music.
Yes, it is.
Everyone loves it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, you know, we can make people, inspire people, influence people to listen to more reggae so that it becomes the commodity that it really deserves to be, without losing its dignity for the roots of what it is, which is just an expression of the Holy Spirit. So I feel like we're reaching like a level of collective consciousness, you know, where I think naturally it's going to come back, where reggae is going to like
Come back stronger.
yeah, but like it's already strong within
The community.
yes,
To touch others.
to touch
around the
others.
world.
Yes.
And I felt that with your song, I Fly a Flag Above My Head. Was that like a celebration of people coming together and enjoying reggae music, and that flag just kind of represents unity?
Yeah, 100%.
what I felt
100%. I
from
mean,
that
it's not against anything.
Right.
You know, cultures and countries and things have a flag that symbolizes their culture and their people, and that's great. But the Rasta flag is like the people's flag,
It is.
where we can all rally around it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's kind of what, you know, that was. It's like let's what do you know, I always say this, it's 2025.
Right.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
like
exactly.
you know, are we fighting against these differences and
Yeah,
these, or
crazy.
are we trying to get along?
It's crazy.
Like, what are we doing?
Right.
You know, come on.
And I think reggae is one of those music genres, like you said, even when you're talking about money, right? Like the arenas are sold out. People do come to these concerts. I know you're performing. I'm sure it's not empty. So
No.
people are there. But like you said, somewhere there's a lack of connection with the marketing aspect of, you'll see concerts sold out, but then you won't see it as much on, like even in interview styles or promo companies that are doing reggae, they're few and far between. And I think we got to change that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was just fortunate enough to be in Manchester, England for the World Music Expo, Worldwide Music Expo, meeting some booking agents and people from around the world. And I mean, I spoke to them, you know, a lot of managers, a lot of booking agents. I'm a new artist, so I'm trying to get my name and my music and my brand out to people. And I told them straight up, listen, I'm very self-aware. I know I'm a new artist. My job as the artist is it's a numbers game.
Right.
It's let's bring the people together. I need opportunities to prove myself on stages and my performance ability to entertain people.
Yeah.
And once we get the people, then I make your job a lot easier. And they were like, oh, we never really heard an artist like talk about it. Well, I mean, I'm not, you know, you have to be self-aware.
You do.
Like, I can't sit here and be like, oh, why, how come I'm not being booked
Right.
for tours? And it's like, it's obvious why.
Right.
you
You're
know?
new.
Yeah.
It's you're doing your sales pitch. Like the fact that you're even at a conference, you know, or were you like a expo?
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't see many artists there. Actually, that's a smart move.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm continuing to invest in this whole thing. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of money. Thankfully, I have a lot of support between business owners, family, friends that truly understand the mission, which is to just promote love around the world. So it's you know, it's not it costs, but
Yes.
I feel like it's an investment. So, you know, in 2 weeks from yesterday, I leave for Senegal. That's what I wanted to share with you.
Oh.
I'm performing at a festival in Senegal, which is like...
Oh my goodness! I was about to ask you, have you been to Africa yet?
No.
Oh my goodness!
So-
How did that happen?
The album came out. It was being promoted, and he's now my friend. I haven't met him yet, but Sun Suli in Senegal, he hit me up on social media. He said, "Listen, we don't really have a budget for international artists, but is there any way you would want to come. We'll take care of your stay and your food. I was like, listen, man,
Who's gonna say no to
you're
that?
asking me to come. You're inspired by my music. You're asking me to come. I'm gonna
Yes,
do whatever I can do to
of
be there.
course.
So I'm really looking forward to that because again, it'll be an opportunity for me to connect with people and to perform. That's what I love to do. I want to
Yes.
entertain people and inspire people and just spread the message of love.
Yeah. By the way, well, your performances, I heard you live at the block party, and you were one of those sounds that I would think I was like getting food. I kind of turned around and stopped, and there were other people singing before you, but you felt something when you performed, and your stage presence and your voice, it really doesn't capture. So just
Thank
want to
you.
let you
I
know
really
that.
appreciate that.
I want to let you know that.
That
And it
means a
kind of
lot.
stuck with me. And
Thank
that's
you.
why I was like, you know what? We got to get Kenny on because there's just something, music just, goes across words. Like you don't even have to talk. You hear the sound and it just like vibrates into your soul.
Yeah, yeah,
So you
yeah.
have that. And
I really appreciate
the it
that.
factor and then there's the non-it factor. And I think you got the it factor.
Oh, I really appreciate that. I mean, like I said, when you were like, "Do you want to come on my show?" I was like, "Thank you, of course." Yes, I will.
Of course.
I love it.
Yeah. So I looked on your website and I'm looking at the beads over around your neck.
Yes.
And I see that these are made by a Jamaican arts and craft person. Are you selling jewelry?
I went down every time I go down, I get some more jewelry. I make people laugh. I said, I'm going to be the Rasta Mr. T at some point. I'm going to come back with so many
Like wood
whatever.
and beads and
Yeah.
all types
But
of
there's a guy in Kingston named Tony who has a couple guys that they hand carve all these necklaces. So I became friends with him. I always go and if something breaks, he fixes it. So this has become kind of like my brand and my style. So I
Yeah.
figure if anybody wants a hand carved necklace
Of
from
course.
Jamaica. So yeah,
I love it. So do you sell like you have to buy it online or do you like walk around with the different necklaces or how would I get it?
on my website, kennyvanella.com,
Okay.
we have a bunch of merchandise there. We're trying to build more. We actually have a vinyl version of the album coming out that's going to be pressed at Tough Gong. It's actually in the process right now. So that's going to be really, really nice. That'll be available. There's like hoodies. I didn't wear that hoodie today. My logo's a torch
Right.
for higher fire.
I love it.
So we're just trying to build and build and build.
Love the merch. Love
Yeah.
that it's like original to like things you'll see in the Caribbean being sold at the beaches or used to be sold at the beaches.
Right.
So I love it and it's just keeping that culture rich and alive and thanks for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know you said you're a disciple of Bob. Who do you listen to? Who's your current like reggae jam that you're listening to these days?
I mean, every time it's like I hate to leave people out, but like Samurai I,
Okay.
he just performed at at Peter's birthday.
Okay.
So it was like Samurai I was performing. I'm like,
Wow.
dude, I've been listening to your album nonstop for like a year. But Jesse Royal, Protege,
Oh.
Mortimer's got a new album out. I mean, all the Chronics. We all want Chronics to come out with some
Oh,
new
yeah.
stuff, which it will. It will. I try to get myself in. Stay in the new, but I love the roots.
Right.
I love the Garnet Silks and the Gregory Isaacs and the Toots and the Mighty Diamonds. I love the Mighty Diamonds and Bunny.
Yes.
I love Bunny Wailer. I can't get away from the old
Original roots.
roots
sounds
reggae.
of
It's in me,
Mhm.
and I just love it. It's like a warm blanket.
What's your favorite roots song of all time?
That one is actually an easy one because it's just what it is. It's the Wailers' "Pass It On,"
Okay.
which it's actually Bunny
All right.
singing, but "Pass It On," very, very classic. If you listen to the words of that song, it's what it is.
Okay.
It's life.
Wow.
So
Don't
yeah,
know it, but now it's on my list.
yeah, "Pass It On."
It's on my list. So yeah, before we wrap, I want to talk about your final mission. Like, what's your mission in this? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I mean, again, I have like a broader vision. I understand like there's a business side, so I'm really focusing on my brand and getting my brand out there. Obviously, connecting with people, just sharing the message of love. I'm open to I have a couple branding things that are some kind of big branding opportunities coming up.
Talk
I
about
can't
it.
really talk about it right now. I'm
Trying
I'm like really
Oh,
focused on this whole
man.
manifesting thing. It's like I
Right.
gotta like kind of
Be
keep,
patient.
yeah.
Don't share it too
I
early.
can't, I can't.
Okay.
But there's some cool things going on. But just that overall, it's like the business with the mission of spreading love, and I just think that we are at a time right now where the collective consciousness is upgrading.
Right.
And everybody's feeling it. We're all kind of at different levels, but everyone is feeling it. And I really truly believe and know and feel in my heart that we're gonna really come together more as a one people. So really, that's
What's causing that, do you think, the collective consciousness to increase?
I think that where we're at. I mean, at the end of the day, we're these organisms that are kind of on a rock floating in outer space around a sun, so like there, and I'm not trying to get too like,
Cosmos.
yeah, but like there's something with that.
Mm-hmm.
And as time progresses, we're just like our phones upgrade,
Yeah.
our consciousness is upgrading. It's the same thing. Like that technology is just a reflection of us as people.
But you don't think the phones are making us more non-conscious? I was looking at a school bus yesterday. The kids were like zombies. I
Yeah.
was scared. I was like, are they moving? They just weren't talking.
Yeah.
I remembered being in the school bus and literally laughing, fighting the person next to me, getting up. The bus driver's like, sit down, Lexi, and just being a kid, like being, and these kids are just sitting there. And
Yeah.
I don't see consciousness. I see that I'm like wanting to knock on the window, like, guys, talk.
Yeah. No, I have to agree with you. I mean,
Or maybe that's like the younger generation. We know that there's a big difference in like millennials. We kind of like just missed that mark of being so addicted to the phones,
Right.
like millennials and above. But then if you start going to Gen Z and below, it's pretty scary.
and we still all are. I mean, wherever you go, everyone is
Everybody
in
is
their
glued.
phone. I mean, I'm guilty of it myself.
true.
But I guess as we move forward, we have to find this balance.
Okay.
I mean, I think technology is great as long as it's being used for good things. But there's people that are going to use it for good things. There's people that are going to, manipulate people for bad things. So, I mean, it's bringing the world closer, but at the same time, we are being disconnected. So, it's an interesting topic. I mean, again, call me naive.
Yeah.
Delusional. But I don't know. I feel like there's a middle ground where we can utilize these things, but still, allow it to bring us together.
So for you, it's not yet at a place of like, we need to start looking into this or limiting, or it's not a danger yet. Your red flag isn't going off.
Yeah,
yet.
I mean, I think there's certain areas, and parents are trying to limit usage of that kind of stuff. I think even governments are starting to say, hey, no, no social media before X or Y age or whatever. I don't know how that looks. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I think, we all have to take personal responsibility. So if you have, if you're parenting and caretaking, you have a responsibility to kind of govern that usage. But, I don't know what that looks like per se. Like I said, I'm just hopeful that that we can find a middle ground of like utilizing it for the good, and then also not allowing it to completely separate us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. We could talk about that all day.
We definitely could. But the good thing is, I think that's where music comes in. Music takes you back into that. That's why you got to play it. It takes you off that technology like bout that you're on, and you just find to listen to the words. It's like you said, you get vibed into the music and the lyrics.
Yeah, 100%. I just kind of just got the chills thinking about that, because that's actually the thing that bonds us all around the world is music. We all are. Everyone listens to music.
Everyone.
That doesn't matter what genre it is. It doesn't matter what it is. That human expression is we all we all have it. We all do it. We all admire it.
Yeah.
And a lot of us are influenced by
There
it.
you go. Reggae influence. That's what we're doing here. Oh my goodness. That was great. That was great. So you guys heard it first here at the Reggae Influence. This was the first debut episode. We had Mr. Kenny Vanella here that gave us some good knowledge. His new debut album and song on the album is I Fly a Flag. His website is kennyvanilla.com. Check it out for merchandise. Check it out to hear his sounds. And of course, when's your upcoming tours? Tell us a little more about that so we could catch you live.
Well, that's, there's some stuff being worked out for next year.
Okay.
I might be going to Europe first.
Ooh.
There's some talks again. I can't say too much because I don't know.
We want to know. So we have to
Yeah.
follow you on Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram. Kenny Vanilla. I'm the only one in the world
Oh,
named Kenny Vanilla.
nice.
So
Kenny
I'm easy to
Vanilla.
find.
Wonderful. All right.
So yeah.
We'll check you out. Thank you all for tuning
Lexi,
in.
thank you so much. All
Thank
right.
you.
And many blessings on this new show.
Oh, yes.
I
And
know
please,
it's gonna
could you
be
drop
great.
us a line for Reggae Influence that we could use?
100%.
Uh-huh.
Greetings, all lions and lioness. This is Kenny Vanilla. You're listening to the Reggae Influence with Lexi.
Ooh, I like it.